and today I'm having an interview with a fellow YouTuber. We are going to have a discussion about Grandma Frida's upbringing, mainly in terms of what they ate, what she learned from her mom, and how it has helped her today.
And from my dad too.
And your dad?
One place I can assure you, in terms of food, we had food.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Was it from the farm or you bought?
We rarely bought anything. My dad had a big farm. Later on, after subdivision with the rest of the family, he ended up with 9.5 acres.
Wow.
And apart from the development in terms of houses, the rest of the farm was used for farming and for our own consumption.
Okay, what sort of crops did you grow?
We grew corn, that's maize, in large scale, beans, groundnuts, cassava, millet, sorghum, and potatoes, a lot of legumes and vegetables, purely for our own consumption as a family.
Wow.
Yes.
Did you enjoy eating that food? The ones that you have mentioned?
Yes, I think so. And, the children would get the head. Then my mom would give my dad the middle, and she would eat
the tail.
Yes.
Anything about the head?
I think you're right, yeah? I remember something funny. You know, my mom ate chicken for the first time after my dad's death.
Why?
kuna ile order ya 788 bado hiyo order iko.
Bus. Meow. Meow.
Hi everybody, greetings, and I hope you're doing well from wherever you're watching this video from. This is African Moms Tribe, and today I'm having an interview with a fellow YouTuber. Kindly introduce yourself.
My name is Frida Wayeme, known as Grandma Frida on YouTube.
Welcome, Grandma Frida, and feel free to view her channel. It's very interesting. Talks a lot about issues to do with lifestyle, especially on retirement. So in today's video, we are going to talk about things to do with African culture, where we grew up, how things were done, what we ate, any myths and misconceptions or taboos. You're most welcome, and if you have a comment, please leave the comment below. So I'll begin with African Moms World, where we talk about many things related to culture, including dress. And for today, we are going to have a discussion about Grandma Frida's upbringing, mainly in terms of what they ate, what she learned from her mom, and how it has helped her today.
And from my dad too.
And your dad too. I don't know why I'm insisting on moms only. Is it because of the name of the channel? Maybe not. Yeah, so Grandma Frida, welcome. Just introduce yourself and take us through what you recall in your upbringing, how it was like.
I think I've told you my name. I'm Grandma Frida on YouTube, Western Kenya. I schooled in Western Kenya, my primary, secondary and high school, and so I am actually an African. And I'm glad that I was brought up in Western Kenya, because that's one place I can assure you in terms of food, we had food.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Was it from the farm or you bought?
We rarely bought anything when I was growing up. My dad had a big farm. Later on, after subdivision with the rest of the family, he ended up with 9.5 acres.
Wow.
And apart from the development in terms of houses, the rest of the farm was used for farming and for our own consumption, family consumption.
Okay, what sort of crops did you grow?
We grew corn, that's maize, in large scale, beans, groundnuts, cassava, millet, sorghum, and potatoes, a lot of legumes and vegetables.
Were they for sale or for consumption as well?
Purely for our own consumption as a family.
Wow.
Yes.
It must have been something great, right?
I see it as something great, but not when I was growing up.
Why?
I used to look at it like, I think I thought we were poor.
Is it because of the type of food, cassava,
Yes.
sorghum, potatoes?
Yes, kind of. I think it was just because I was still a kid, but I used to find like every time you have to get everything from the farm for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that's not a good sign. I thought the best way would be to run to the shop to get some bread and something good for breakfast, get some meat, you know. But almost everything was surrounded within the compound where we were living, on the farm.
So this thought, was it from your peers, or was that just your own thinking or feeling?
It's just growing up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you participate in farm work?
I can't say, not really, not a lot, yeah. The thing is, my parents took me to boarding school when I was very young, in standard 4. So that meant most of the time I was not at home.
Mm-hmm.
And the advantage we also had is my mom would go to the farm. My dad not so much, because my dad worked out of home most of the time. But we would always get people from within the area at a small fee.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you enjoy eating that food? The ones that you have mentioned?
Yes, I think so.
I'm not sure you... Okay.
You know, when you are young,
Yeah.
there's craving for things like meat, there's craving for bread, soda.
Which was not common, right?
No, it wasn't common. Like for breakfast, let me tell you, just
Yeah.
give you typically what we would eat.
Mm-hmm.
Or we would always have tea. My mom ensured that there is always tea for every member of the family.
Was it
But
milk tea
It was milk tea.
from cows at home?
We used to get the milk from our own cows, and if the cows, if there was no milk, maybe that period, yeah, we would always get milk from neighbors at a fee.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my mom would send us in the morning, any one of us, we go to the neighbors with a bottle, the Fanta bottle.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the most common one. Then you go, they get for you milk, you come. But then the accompaniment for the tea, because most of us Kenyans, yeah, we want to take every sip of tea with something in the mouth, and the accompaniment was always from our farm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember we used to call it escort. So you're
Escort,
taking
yes.
the tea. What is escorting it?
It is the
Yeah.
escort, yeah.
So typically, what was your breakfast like?
our breakfast was, there was always tea,
Yeah.
and then accompanied either by groundnuts, cassava, boiled potatoes, that's boiled cassava, boiled sweet potatoes, boiled arrowroots, or I said groundnuts.
Yes, you have.
Yes, and sometimes the mixture of beans and green maize, we usually call it in my mother tongue amenjere.
Maenjere. What
And
most
then-
people call gideri?
Yes,
in
that's
Kenya?
githeri.
Okay.
And then we would also eat a lot of during the season. That was seasonal.
Okay.
We would have either boiled corn, boiled maize, or roasted.
That was the escort at breakfast.
Yes.
That was quite rich.
We didn't find it rich.
Oh my. There is some noise in the background, but I think we can continue. So how was your typical lunch? What was the sort of food that you normally ate?
For lunch, we always had what we call ugali. You know what ugali is?
Yes, I know ugali. It's mainly maize flour.
Yes.
Sometimes it is from millet flour and even sorghum.
Yeah.
Or even you can mix.
Yeah.
So which one did you eat more often?
Mainly maize, but we would also eat cassava mixed with sorghum. So that flour is, you boil water. When it has boiled, you use that flour to make some sort of
a thick paste.
A thick paste.
Yes.
That's what is called ugali.
Oh, okay.
So most of the time that's what we eat, but ugali must be eaten with something. And it was always with vegetables, once in a while with fish, once in a while with meat, once in a while with chicken or eggs.
But the vegetables was like a standard.
Most of the time, actually, we ate with the veggies.
What sort of veggies were those?
Do you know a veggie called murenda?
Yes, I do. The slimy one.
Yes.
Yeah.
We used to have murenda.
Yeah.
I didn't like it, but I love it today. We used to have cowpeas, greens, vegetables.
The one we call kunde?
Kunde.
Yes.
Kanzira. Saka.
Yes.
Managu.
Yeah. African nightshade. Yes.
We would have timboka.
Timboka. Amaranth, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about pumpkin leaves?
Oh yeah, that's my
Favorite.
We always had that, and then all these used to come from our farm.
Okay.
We never bought vegetables even for a day, and it used to bore me.
It used to bore you?
Yeah.
By the way, those are very rich in most of the nutrients.
We didn't know.
You didn't like them?
We didn't like them, but once in a while,
Yeah.
because we had chicken in plenty on the farm.
Yeah.
So once in a while we'd also have chicken, but most of the time when there is a visitor.
When there is a visitor.
When there was a visitor in the family, they would always slaughter chicken.
Okay.
And as children, there's something we really enjoyed.
What is that?
They would always, as they are cooking when they have removed the feathers, when they are cutting, they would always remove the intestines and the head and the legs, and they would give them to us. Then we would tie the
intestines on the legs. I know that.
You are allowed to roast it, or sometimes you dip it in the chicken where they are making.
Yeah.
But the disadvantage of dipping it, the moment you dipped it, when they are dishing out now, giving portions, you'd be given that for you as your portion for the ugali.
So the visitor ate the other parts where there was a lot of meat.
Of course.
But anyway, that was it.
Yeah, and because we were growing up, by the way, I didn't find it funny. I just thought it's normal.
Okay.
Yeah, it was quite normal.
Yeah.
But, and we would get excited when there's a visitor because you know you are going to eat well.
You call it chicken even if it's just intestines and the legs and the head.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about at dinner, supper time? What did you eat mostly?
Dinner was more or less like the same, but there was an accompaniment.
What was the accompaniment? Tea.
There was always tea.
Yeah.
Why I remember tea, yeah? My mom never wanted us to take tea.
Yeah.
Because, especially me.
Why you?
I used to wet the bed until...
Oh, bed wetting.
Until I was in standard 4.
So the rest would take tea?
So my mom had a way, and later on we used to remind her, yeah? She would always ask who wants tea, and all of us would always say we want. And you'd see she changes her face because she wanted us to say no.
And then how would she tell you not to take because you're the one who wets the bed?
She would tell me, take it, and in the morning I will come to check your beddings.
If you have made them wet.
So that would really pull me out, and I say, no, I'm not taking it.
And you'd actually not take?
I would not take, but I would still wet the bed.
Wow. That's interesting. Looking back, I can see that from a nutritional point of view, that was quite healthy. You ate quite a variety of foods, and most of them, as you say, were from the farm.
Yeah. But you did notice that.
You did notice that. Yeah. You mentioned that at dinner time it was more or less the same.
Yeah.
But the accompaniment was
tea.
The tea.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me ask, in between the meals, is there anything that you took?
By the way, there was a lot of snacks. We didn't notice that it's snacks.
Mm-hmm.
It's today, this whole word of snacks have come in. Now we are understanding.
Yeah.
But there was always roasted groundnuts.
Yeah.
Sim, roasted, or even raw or boiled.
Yes.
This thing we call githeri was a meal, but most of the time was actually a snack.
Yeah.
There was always porridge. There was always milk.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there were a lot of fruits. I went the other day. I like guavas, and I grew up on a farm where we had so much guavas. The other day I went to buy guavas at the market. I saw them, and I was buying one guava at 10 shillings.
Yeah, and
those ones were very free those days.
They grew wild, most of them, right?
You understand why?
Yeah.
Do you know why?
No, I don't know.
We didn't have toilets.
So the many seeds, when you go to the bush, they just grow and become a tree.
Yes, I guess so. No, but I don't have to bring my parents down. We had a toilet in my family.
Okay, but once in a while. But generally, right?
Yeah, there are no toilets.
By the way, that's why I have seen over the years there's been a lot of promotion on latrine coverage. Most counties are really trying to see how each home must have a pit latrine. Yeah. Those are some of the issues. Okay, Frida, thank you so much. I would like to know if you had any taboos on any of these foods.
Yeah. Let me tell you one thing.
Yeah.
Most of these things, I didn't know it's taboo. I'm actually learning most of these terms now when I'm already big, I'm an adult, yeah?
Okay.
But when it came to chicken,
yes,
there are particular parts of the chicken that was for specific gender.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the men would always get the thigh, the drumstick.
Yeah.
It was always meant for the men.
Yeah.
The legs, the head, and the neck. And these wings.
Embaparo.
Yes, the wings were meant for the children. And in most homes, my home included,
Yeah.
my mom, ladies were not eating chicken.
Generally.
Most, not everybody.
Okay. So we have just talked about the food taboos in terms of the different parts of chicken. Who would eat what? What else? Is there any other food that you had food taboos?
Yes.
Yeah?
Fish.
What about the fish?
Yeah, I loved fish, yeah. But I don't know whether it's only my mom. But the children, we would always be given the head of the fish. It was mainly tilapia. And the children would get the head. Then my mom would give my dad the middle, and she would eat the
tail.
Yes.
Anything about the head? What do you know about the head?
We used to complain, and you know what she used to tell us?
Yeah.
My mom used to tell us that it's best for us as children to eat the head because we are going to be very bright and we'll become professors in our education.
Oh,
so
is it
according to her,
yeah.
She never told us what it is, but she would tell us the head of the fish will make us heads in future. There is something hidden in that head that would make us become heads in our capacities in future.
Okay, they may not even have understood the nutritional value of some of that information they gave you. I remember my mom used to tell us that the head is like the engine of the fish, and children need to eat the engine.
Yeah,
I guess it's engine. I guess that's about the omega-3, which was good.
Today, because they always associated it with leadership and being bright in school.
Yeah.
and that would really motivate us, yeah? And we would really eat and really eat.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any other food taboo that were prohibited for maybe certain gender? Men would not eat certain, children would not eat something.
I think you're right, yeah? I remember something funny. You know, my mom ate chicken for the first time after my dad's death.
Why?
She never used to eat chicken because she used to tell us ladies are not supposed to eat chicken, and we would really argue with her, but we are ladies. Then she would tell us, no, when you are old enough, you don't have to eat chicken.
But she allowed you, her daughters, to
we
eat.
used to eat chicken.
Yeah.
And then in the chicken, by the way, there was a particular part of meat that my mom would never give us. It would always be preserved for my dad, whether he's where.
Which one is that?
The gizzard.
Oh, imondo. No wonder they call it imondo ya papa.
And let me tell you, later on now when I became independent,
yes.
Oh, I love it. I always buy it from
so it's the sweet things that were being given to the men. I like that.
I don't know, my mom would tell us if you eat gizzard,
what will happen?
What was it? Was it that you never get? I can't remember.
Yeah,
but there was a reason we would be given and then we would accept it.
Are there instances when you slaughtered a chicken and dad was not there? Who would then eat that gizzard?
They would give it, you know, the African setup, we always used to live as a family.
With her dad's brothers around.
Brothers, yeah.
So he would be given another dad's brother?
Yes, they would always be given that particular piece of meat, plus, of course, another piece of meat to accompany. It's not just the gizzard, but at least they would always have a share.
Wow.
Yeah.
Culture. Very deep.
And you know the good thing?
Yeah.
We never questioned a lot. We always just went with the vibe.
Wow.
When you're told this, then you wherever you do it.
Wow. Okay,
then
interesting.
There's also another piece of meat. I think it's one of the organs, yeah? My mom always used to tell us that it's not supposed to be divided. The kidney. The kidney? Yeah.
Chicken?
I don't know, just kidney.
Or generally?
You would not eat two of you. So we hardly used to cook kidney in our home.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know the reason.
So she didn't give you an explanation? Okay, I haven't heard about that. But you know, things that used to happen those days, there was always a reason for everything. Yeah. It's just that we haven't found out what the reason for that information was.
Or we have forgotten. You know, we used to be told, but then we have forgotten.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's very interesting. And that's from western part of Kenya, the Luyas. Yeah? Okay, Frida, let's talk about food preservation. How was that done? Because you see, there were no fridges then.
Yeah. We didn't have fridges. By the way, we used to boil our food most of the time. Like in the morning,
yeah,
when mom maybe is going to the shamba or going somewhere, one of the duties of the person left at home was to ensure that the food that was left over is, it's called steamed or it's boiled.
So that it doesn't get spoiled,
yeah.
It's heated, eh?
We used to put it back on the fire,
yeah,
so that it doesn't get spoiled. And then,
yeah,
after you've removed it from the fire, you don't put a lid.
Or you don't cover it.
You don't cover it, you
yeah,
leave it open until when it's cool, then you can cover it again.
Oh.
So in a day we would heat it like 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
So that, because one thing is at home we used to cook a lot of food. A lot of food, like if it's veggies, it's so much.
So it could be eaten for several days, or you
like,
had many visitors? 2 days.
Yeah, at least 2 days, and maybe a visitor comes or a neighbor, then you give them. So we preserve it that way. And then there was a different way of preserving different types of food,
yeah,
like groundnuts. We grew a lot of groundnuts. My dad used to grow a lot of groundnuts, but we would never shell.
You just leave it in the pod.
From the farm, we spread it to dry it, and once it's dried, it's stored in a bag. Okay. With the pods, yeah. That happened with things like seeds, like the cowpea seeds, all those seeds. We would dry them in the pods, and then just preserve them. But maize,
Yeah.
the corn, when we harvest, we never used to remove the back cover. So we would use that to tie them in the kitchen.
Is it the place on top of the fire
On
or
top of
just
the
around
fire,
the...
yeah. And it would remain there until the next planting season. Then we
Wow.
plant the same maize. So we never used to buy seeds.
So that was like around 8 months or so?
No, like my home, we had 2 planting seasons.
Ah.
We used to plant in, I think people plant in February, March.
The long
And
and
then-
short rains maybe?
Yes, and then we plant again in September.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how we used to preserve the seed. Then there was also a way of preserving most of the things, like meat.
Yeah.
And that's the meat I love most, yeah, today. We would have, like you'd find a whole family slaughtering a whole cow.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a function and a cow has been slaughtered and there's plenty of meat. So we would dry it, completely dry.
Drying in the... So you
So-
dry it with fire?
Yeah, we would dry meat on fire. We keep on drying it on fire every day for quite some time, yeah? Like for a full week. And then after that, when it's completely dry, it would also either be put in, there's some ash we used to make. It used to be made from some reeds. Those reeds, I don't know the English word, but we used to call it olumunyu.
Olumunyu.
Olumunyu. They look like
Oh.
sugarcane near the riverside.
Okay.
So they would burn that, and then the ash that would come from it would make what we used to call musharaha.
Ah.
So that ash,
Yeah.
after you have roasted the meat for quite a long time,
Yeah.
then you put it in that ash, and it would be preserved even for a year. Or other times, that same meat would be tied somewhere in the kitchen where the smoke from the fire keeps on warming it, and it will stay there for as long as you want.
Okay.
Yes.
So this drying of meat, that meant that you would have meat preserved for very long periods.
Yeah, and mainly that kind of meat, I remember in my family, it was meant for abrupt visitors. You know, in most of these African homes, like in my home,
Yeah.
it's not that a visitor will give you a notice that I'll be coming.
They just pop in.
Yes, they would just pop in, sometimes the in-laws, sometimes the aunties. So
Yeah.
when they come, the meat that has been preserved, that would be the food that they would eat. And of course now for us kids, that was a great occasion.
Because
we
the
don't
visitor eats and you are there on standby.
Yes, meat was meant for visitors.
Yeah.
The good things were meant for visitors. But
Yeah.
we will also now have an opportunity to eat during that time.
Okay.
Yes.
You have talked about this ash that used to be burned and used to preserve the meat. There is something that you have mentioned called mushereha, and I have seen that it is used as it's put in vegetables like the murenda made, it becomes nicely slimy, and sometimes it's put in even in meat when you're cooking it so that it becomes soft. But I have seen it being made from different other things, like for example the maize cobs, beans.
Yeah. That's now the alternative people are using, yeah?
Yeah.
And the reason is, these reeds that I'm talking about, people have encroached on land. They used to be at the riverside.
Okay.
And it was specifically, it's called in my language, Olmunyi, it was specifically for making that, it was a whole art
Yeah.
of making that ash.
Yeah.
But because there's so much encroachment, there's a lot of population growth, people have encroached on that land, and it's very rare that you'll get that Olmunyi anywhere. So people now have turned, like the generation we have today, I don't think they even know that the origin of that mushereha. They just think it's from peels, banana peels, from maize cobs.
Yeah.
That's the alternative people are having. I don't like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Frida, I want to ask you about this issue of organic foods. I don't know how it was done then, how crops planted, were fertilizers used,
No, I never, in my home at least, I'm talking about my home.
Yeah.
I never saw any fertilizer, any fertilizer being bought to put, to when the seeds are growing.
Yeah.
My parents always preserved the seed of the things that we grew. Groundnuts were preserved in their pods. Beans were dried and kept in pots.
Mm-hmm.
And things like the maize, which was the main staple food for us, would always be tied with their leaves and preserved in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then we shared a lot the seeds.
Yeah.
If a neighbor didn't have a seed, they would always come and borrow a seed. That is how food, the seed was preserved. So by the time you go to plant, that seed is the original seed from your previous harvest. Then now, the farms, I never saw fertilizer. One, most homes used to have cattle and other domestic animals. So that cow dung would be used for us. The kids would go and collect that cow dung and just throw it anyhowly in the farms in readiness. After cultivating the land, then we would throw. Sometimes we would throw it in lines so that they would use it as fertilizer. And then the kitchen garden, which was, we never considered it as a kitchen garden, but it's a place where we used to get our vegetables. So every time, almost every household had some sort of chicken. So when in the morning, it's us children who used to sweep that kitchen. And then that waste, we just throw it in the kitchen garden.
Okay.
And the plants just thrived.
Okay.
So we never used fertilizer. Actually, in my area, we started using fertilizers when we had now around the 1970s, when I was still young. My area was a sugarcane kind of area. So we had to grow sugarcane, and then we started using the fertilizer for the sugarcane, and farmers now would use that, part of it, to fertilize their lands.
Okay.
Yes.
Now let's talk about drinking water.
Yeah.
Where did you used to get water? Was it piped? Where was that from?
You really make me miss that water.
Yes. Where was it from?
I wish I could show you. We used to get water from a place called Ipombo.
Ipombo.
You know Ipombo?
Yeah, it's like a well. It's actually a shallow well.
It is natural running
Water. Yeah.
So we would always, now those are some of the chores that were assigned to children.
Yeah.
When the parents go out to the farm, you are assigned ensuring that the water pots are full, the house is cleaned, the places where the chicken and the cows sleep are clean. So we would go to get water from the rivers.
So
streams.
Was it like a communal one, or was it near? Was it a hassle?
Never. And by the way, I was home the other day, when I was home in December, where we used to collect water. If you go today, that spring is still there, but you pay.
Oh.
You have to pay to get that water. People have now, it was more communal. It would be in somebody's land, but you just go and collect, wash. The upper part is where people would collect water from that pump, and then the lower part, water from that well, free of charge, and it was very clean water. We never used to boil it, and we preserve it in some pots, water pots, and that's where we draw water for drinking and even for cooking. There were different water pots for different things.
But all the water, whether for use or for drinking, all was from that pombo.
Yes. And another thing about my village, we had natural springs. Like when it rains after a short while, when you go on the path, you just find water sprinkling from down. So the water pot was the water table was very near.
And were there any cases of waterborne diseases?
I can't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
So that was clean water?
Yes.
Straight from the spring?
Yeah.
In the pot?
Yeah.
Then you drink it?
Yes. The only thing that I remember we used to be treated for was malaria. And I
Okay.
don't think malaria has to do
Anything to do with waterborne?
Yes,
No,
but
no, no.
malaria, yes, we used to be taken to hospital.
Okay. Okay, Frida, you initially talked about having a kitchen garden that was almost like a farm. You know, it was a big farm. But with all that, I'm just imagining like the fruits that were there, the bananas. Were you able to consume all that?
There was too much. Let me tell you, there was just too much in terms of fruits. There was no time for fruits. Those were snacks. And they were seasonal. So the time for mangoes, the season for mangoes, the season for guavas, season for bananas, season for almost every fruit. You just go and pick, and sometimes the bananas would ripen on the farm.
On the farm?
And
no theft?
Apart from, it's not theft, sharing with the birds. The birds would just enjoy themselves.
That's biblical.
And by the time you go, you find they have eaten quite some, but there's a lot for you.
Yeah.
And
what happened to the excess?
It was just for family consumption. Of course, there are some families that would actually sell that.
Yeah.
Because different families have different needs. Yeah?
Yeah.
Even my family would sell part of it if maybe we want to buy something else like soap, or we want to eat meat. So some of the foods that we were growing, although it was meant specifically for household consumption, but we would also sell part of it, and some of it we would gift. And then there was something about community living.
Yeah.
Communal living.
Yes.
Any neighbor would come if they want something, like especially if your harvest is, if you planted early and you harvest early, people will come looking for like maize to roast. There was nothing like you're selling for neighbors. You just tell them to go to the farm to get what they want, even vegetables. And up to now, actually in my home, my parents' home, if you want vegetables, it's always for free, because that place where we used to grow vegetables, it still grows, and we still preserve it the same way. We just throw the whatever, the waste from the chicken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, that's really different from what we know now. Everything has been commercialized.
I love them,
including mchicha. The thing
I love mrenda these days, yeah. And imagine I have to go and buy it.
Yeah.
A small piece like this, 30 bob. Yeah.
Which was free.
It was free. And you know, I come from a sugarcane belt.
Yes.
There was so much of that managu in between the lines of the sugarcane. So much. And not what we see in the markets today. These big leaves, vegetables.
No.
I never grew up seeing those. I don't know where they've come from. And by the way, I don't buy them.
I know, you'd be scared. You have never seen such a big leaf.
No.
Even if it's manure.
No.
It sounds fake.
I don't buy that. I know where I get real food, vegetables.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, that's really interesting. It looks like you miss those days.
That's why you see the fact. This was preserved from my childhood. The kind of food I ate.
Yes.
By the way, I didn't realize that we were eating real organic food.
It's because the knowledge was not there.
Yes. For us, it's like we were missing the best food.
Yeah.
We were missing bread, cakes, sweets, and what have you. And yet we were actually building our body.
Yeah, you know, like what makes me think about how we look at foods now. You know, like cassava, sweet potatoes. People don't like, and even millet, unless you are sick and then you're told to eat some of those foods, which is very rare. But people call them orphaned crops because of the attitude people have towards them. You know, like sweet potatoes, we have seen many people are looking at it like it's the poor man's crop. So they would rather sell, buy bread, and not eat the sweet potato. And if you have been keen, we have even the orange flesh sweet potato, which is rich in vitamin A. It's really coming up fast, but still people don't want to eat the sweet potatoes. And like the vegetables you've talked about, the indigenous vegetables, those are quite healthy. And whereas you didn't like them at that time, but you ate them at every meal.
Yeah.
which is different from what we are doing now. If there is an option for not eating vegetables, then families will not cook them. Yeah. So I think there is a lot that we have to learn so that we grow up healthy, especially for the young children.
Yeah.
And even the elderly, of course. For a general person, I mean for a human being, we require those nutrients that are from especially the indigenous vegetables.
Let me tell you, if you grew up the time I grew up,
Yeah.
and you actually saw what you are eating, I'm very choosy when I get to buying grains. And when I go to the market, I never buy the fat groundnuts.
Oh, you choose the small ones.
The small.
I know there were those fat ones that had a line on them.
There were those fat ones that were kind of whitish. They came from our neighboring country. Those ones are okay. But the seed today is just some fat. I don't know. I have nothing, no prejudice.
Yeah.
But it's my past. I still go back for the small groundnuts. The small red groundnuts.
Yeah.
Even the beans.
They are sweeter, in
beans.
fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are some particular beans. I'll tell you this one is from wherever. Even veggies.
Yeah.
I know what to choose.
Okay.
Yes.
Now you ate a lot of maize and beans mixed. You called it
Manjere. That was a snack.
Yes, it was a snack. Did you ever have this thing about heartburn after eating beans?
No. I don't know. I don't know. There's something that I find funny.
Yeah.
We would spend the whole day cooking that mixture.
Yes.
You know, you start in the morning, and by the time it's ready, it's around 2. I don't understand why. Yeah.
Okay.
These days, people just, I don't know.
And there are a lot of complaints about beans, especially. People say even if they soak them overnight, they put carrots, there's still that variety that gives people heartburn. So they're shying away from certain beans.
And that's why I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Personally, I won't say which one.
Yeah.
But when I go to the market, I know what I'm looking for.
Okay.
And I can always tell this is what I want.
All right.
This is what I grew up eating.
Okay.
And another thing is, for me personally, because I think of that prejudice. I come from Western.
Yeah.
I do most of my cereal buying from Western.
Okay, what you're used to.
Here right now, and I want groundnuts. I just sent money there.
Okay.
And the groundnuts are bought, and they are bought plus Sim Sim. You'll never miss those 2 things in my house.
Okay.
And even meat, I'm very particular. Most of the time, not so much these days because my mom is not around. But when my mom was there, I would send a lot of money at home. They buy the meat, they roast it for me, they preserve it for a long time, and then I know I'll be going in such a day, I'll carry that meat back. That's how I've actually connected a lot with the food that I ate when I was young.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the way we used to cook our food. What was the most common method?
Okay, we boiled some food, but we also fried some food. And when frying the food, onions, tomatoes, we always got them from the farm. And by the way, most of those families, my family included, we had cherry tomatoes in plenty, and they were just growing.
The small, that were always there.
They were always there. So when you're cooking, when you are assembling the ingredients, you run to the kitchen garden. These days I call it a kitchen garden. Then you pick the spring onions. And then the pepper. There was always pepper, very, very hot pepper.
Hot pepper.
Yeah, I think that's the main ingredients we used to use for frying the food.
Okay.
Vegetables and meat and chicken.
All right.
Yes.
Do you miss them?
I miss, oh my God, especially the skin of the chicken. It was so yellow. Yellow, and then the bones. The bones of the chicken had some, what do you call it? What is it called? Marrow. Bone marrow.
Oh. So you'd eat until you crack the bone. Those are the road runners,
You hardly get that chicken unless you buy it from the eastern part of Kenya or the western, Nyanza, and the chicken that come from Kisii.
Those were real traditional chicken.
Yes.
That have eaten insects, ants,
They were even eating snakes.
Ah! So are you eating a snake indirectly?
I don't know.
There.
I don't know whether you grew up in a place you knew this thing they call tsiswa.
Yeah, termites. Oh, I love them. I think they not grow. We even used to sing for them to come out of the hole. Yeah.
I can't remember the song for that.
We used to put sticks by the side of the hole, then you cover and ensure that when they try, you make noise so that they think it is rain. So the singing was to confuse them that it's rain. Then they come out. So you put a blanket on top or a sheet.
Yeah.
Then when they fly out, they just go directly to the hole where you've put a container there. So we would begin even eating them when they were raw.
Yeah, and you know there were different types. Those ones you're describing were called tsisi. And then those ones were mainly in August.
Wow, do I even know that there was a difference? Me, I call them termites all.
Then there are some that used to come in April.
Yeah.
And those ones, the children would wake up very early in the morning when it has rained in the morning, mainly in April. Then you go on the paths.
Yeah.
They make some small ant hills. So you open those ant hills and they'll always walk out two.
Wow.
You collect them, and it would be once or twice in a month, during that month of April, once in a year. By the way. Then we also had others. So these ones were called amakwetere. I think so. Then we had others. These ones were mainly in the evening, and they had a particular season. We called them amakaburi.
What?
Amakaburi. So those ones in the evening, they would come. I mean, you'd go out and pick them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had others called, I don't know, but those ones, the young boys would go out at around 2 and beat some sticks.
Maybe that's the one I'm talking about.
And beat and then come with quite a lot.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name anyway, but those were the kind of the white ants we had, and they were seasonal.
Yeah.
I hardly get them, although there are still some there. And then now preparing them was just I loved them, and I still love them raw.
Maybe one time we should wait for the season and then we prepare them in the different ways we
By
knew.
the way, in one of my shots, I have one where I was there in 2023 in Kakamega.
Yes.
And young boys were harvesting.
Wow. Okay, that's nice. We had good things.
Oh, we had food.
Now, there's one you have forgotten to talk about. Mushrooms. Yes, over.
And you know, collecting these things used to be the work of children.
Yes.
So you wake up in the morning, and they were also seasonal. And you walk around, and they were everywhere in the compound.
Actually, I was home this March when they were planting maize and it had just started raining. You wake up in the morning and kids are full. They're just all over the farm. Most of them have small gunny bags and they have put mushrooms there.
Yes.
You know, that's a good season. Very nice season. So you just dry them and eat. What was your experience on eating mushrooms?
I love them. Do you know how much they go now for 1 kg?
No.
500 shillings.
Wow.
In Western.
Wow.
Not even in Nairobi. I don't know how much they go for in Western.
Wow.
In Nairobi. That is how it is. And these were things we were getting
free
with children. It wasn't child labor.
Imagine.
It wasn't child labor.
Yeah.
We enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.
And that was our work.
I remember we woke up early.
Yeah.
So that no other kids would find our oboba. We'd dry them and eat them for a long time.
I miss them.
Do you know my mom had kept some? She had already dried some. So when I was coming to Nairobi, I carried some. And I just remove a little.
Can I come?
Yes, please come.
And you know, have you ever eaten that mushroom and they put some milk?
Yes, I do put some milk.
And then this milk we buy maziwa lala. Do you know how we used to preserve it?
The one in the gourd?
Yes.
Yeah, but we didn't do much of that. How did you used to prepare yours?
When you milk, we keep some for the tea, and we used to milk in the morning and in the afternoon, in the evening.
Yeah.
So the milk, you keep some for the tea, or if you are selling some, and then the rest is put in the gourd. And then you collect a lot. You'd have a lot of gourds, yeah, milk. And I don't know how my parents would number them. You just know this is the red one and this is the red one. So in every day you put it out in the sun for it to get sour and sour and sour and sour. And by the time you drink, it is sweet. And they would also get lard from that.
Yeah.
Yes, for cooking rice.
So that meant that you took a lot of milk,
Yeah.
fermented milk,
Yeah.
with vegetables? Or it
yes,
was-
we would also put in the vegetables. We would also drink it, although I don't drink milk. But for porridge,
Yeah.
we would use it for porridge. We would use it for vegetables, and it's so sweet in the mushrooms.
What would it go with milk, and you eat the fermented milk with what? Ugali? Or just drank it?
Just drinking.
Ah.
Yeah, I would see most people in my family who drink it. I
You
don't
you didn't like it?
No.
Oh.
But I liked the lard.
Okay.
Until my mother died, she would always get me that lard.
Okay.
It's very sweet, and you cook it with rice. Oh my God, that smell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Frida. That has been quite a moment, discussing how things were done culturally, and also what was eaten, very healthy. Some practices we have let go, which I don't think we need to have let go, and still available now, which we can also teach our children to continue and prevent them from the many diseases we are having now, which are related to the foods that we eat. So thank you so much. I don't know if you have anything more to say.
No.
Yeah.
Apart from that, we also used to have barns. That's where we used to store our food.
Oh,
The grains, we
yes,
store them
yes,
there.
yes.
And there was no theft. They
Yeah.
were outside the house. and
Yeah,
we used to get them.
I remember very well. We used to have a woven, like a big woven basket that was grass thatched, and they would put in either maize or millet and sorghum inside there. And it was actually for donation.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It will take us up to the next season. Now you try that in a home. You won't get the maize.
They'll steal it. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah? So thank you so much for listening to us, and thank you so much, Grandma Frida, for taking your time to let us know about how things were done then. And there are a lot of things that we can actually learn and teach our children. Some was so good that there were not many diseases because of the cultural practices that were there then. So I think some of these things we need to actually just go back and see what was good, what we can pick, and the bad practices, then we can do away with them. Thank you so much also for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Bye.